You can't keep using tools of oppression and expect to raise free people.
I feel like this dovetails beautifully into what we're doing right here, because you see how Lou is in real life. Look, like I'm touching actual Lou. This is not an illusion.
I know.
Illusion,
right?
L-O-U. Illusion. Welcome to February Love Month on Fear of the Free Child. And this month I'm loving on every episode of every bit of every fiber of every being of everybody else on this network, Raising Free People Network. I'm gonna put it right here at the bottom.
Right.
So Lou Hollis is the host of Grief, Growth, and Goals podcast.
Hey, y'all.
And she's here in person. She happens to be in this area at this time. So we're taking this time to talk a little bit about the evolution of your podcast. And the podcast is really an example of the whole woman. Am I hoodie not staying on?
Your prop is in place.
Right. Because Lou speaks this language. So in case you haven't listened to Grief, Growth, and Goals, Lou, tell us a little bit about, who you are, your background, just a bit about what we hear on Grief, Growth, and Goals, the woman behind the content.
Yeah. So a little bit about the woman behind the content. Oh my gosh. I am a mama of 3 beautiful beings. I'm a widowed mama. And I have been modeling and acting for over 25 years, managing myself and my children, because they are talent too. They model and they act. And what had happened was a sister had to push the pause button because my husband passed. And then I was like going and moving and shaking still. And then all of a sudden I had to sit down. And when I sat down, it was really beautiful, like this sabbatical. But at the time, I didn't really know all of that, but it was still beautiful. I was still living and being with my children.
Yeah.
But it was like a pause. It was just a pause for me to and I had found Fear of the Free Child, and she'd given me this language while I was pausing. And then learning to deal with all of what was showing up for me in that pause.
Yeah, that's deschooling essentially. Like Lou, so that's what I was so drawn to, how we move from just 2 people engaging on social media to a depth and a friendship, because I continue to be so intrigued by the layers that Lou navigates at the same time. Like her husband's passing, as you'll, discover on the podcast, wasn't not that a passing, well, sometimes a transition can be smooth, but it was not that. It was quite the opposite of that. And there was so much unraveling outside of the emotional and logistical unraveling of his passing. It was she also had mournings and deaths and new births, and in terms of her own self-discovery, as a woman, and recognizing how she wanted to engage in the world. And you were so open about not only where you were, but that you also had baggage on top of that. Like how much, I'm sharing because I need to, because it's urgent, because I have questions as somebody who was formerly, deeply religious in a way that didn't question. And that now I don't give a label to myself, but I'm still questioning, we as people, period, but then as women and then as Black women, that permission to do that sort of unraveling, that sabbatical. Yes. We don't get it. But Lou is like, look, it's taking me and I'm taking it, and I'm just going to take y'all along for the ride and be really open because now you're shifting kind of out of that sabbatical, right?
Yes.
And we get all of that on Grief, Growth, and Goals.
Okay? Yeah, that's what we doing. We shifting up out, and it feels so good. It feels so amazing because it felt amazing to take the rest and then to be able to name it once I discovered it. And then now to come out of it, it feels quite empowering because I have the language, I have community.
Yes.
And that's been so helpful. I feel like I'm a fucking superhero up in this bitch. For real. Right? Da-da-da-da, like my cape on. And like seriously, because I'm fighting for myself and I'm doing it. I remember when I found Akilah in this language of radical selfie or just radical. You know, I heard it, radical, but then when you live radical and you take up that space that you need for yourself, it's quite empowering right now to come up out of it, because and then having the support, you just feel like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm really not alone. And people are doing this at intimate and interval, different levels.
Yes.
So it just makes it feel like, because especially seeing other people use their voice in such a way, like seeing you use your voice in this way just empowered me to make sure I was using mine.
Yeah.
Like because that's what I know how to do. That's what I know how to do. But after experiencing grief and depression, you go inside yourself for me, I went inside myself, and then coming back out, I see all the fear, things that I probably saw before, but I didn't care. I was young. I just didn't care. I didn't see it. But now I see it, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. Like,
she acted. Yes.
It does. It feels like, oh my gosh, like for real. At least for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is crazy. But it's comforting to know that you have people that are going through similar things, not exactly the same, because everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to know that people are going deep within themselves and figuring out what the fuck is going on.
Yes.
And then giving things language, like people like you, people like dehumanize, people like them black mamas. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, truly, that's been my community. Okay. Hey, Crystal Tennille Irving. Yes. Okay. Like, these are people that I would go. These are my support system. Y'all don't even know it, y'all. But that's what's happening. People are using tools, things like these, to help navigate this terrain where you feel like you could be alone, and it's really beautiful,
especially now with us not being able to be physically around each other. When Lou came here, we had the awkward thing of like, what do we do? What's each person's boundary, especially in a pandemic, and just making a decision that makes sense for you and yours. There's so many things that we navigate generally, but even more so now, it's easy for us to like front and show up. We're behind our cameras. And those are the sort of things that you talk about really openly and without the pretense of acting like she's solved it, which is what I love too. It really is like an openness. And so as we talk about 2021 and the next season of Grief, Growth, and Goals, one of the things that I'm so excited to share, as you talked about on the finale of last season, is that we're going to make it, and I put my little notes.
Season, y'all.
One season down. So now we talked about making it more communal and more specific. Right. And a part of how we do that is to deepen. And a part of how we deepen is to make it even easier for Lou to do the podcast. So when we started out like, all right, we're going to do it, every week and, or whatever is going to make sense. We definitely had an unschooled approach to it, but we allowed for the emergence of a structure that would be a good fit. And in that structure, we found out about the type of support you needed. We found out about how the podcast might not only be different than we imagined, but not just a podcast at all. So like, as you need to go listen to that last episode. I'm going to make sure the link is here to hear how it's going to be set up, but it'll be so much more communal. And I think so much more tied to how you are, because I think about the way that you are and I didn't even say this to you because this really came up in preparation for this. There's so many things that we'll be doing with the network that I'm like, yo, if Lou was like, I don't even know if hosting it is the right term, MC, like because you live in this space and you know what it does for people, its power, and you're living your own decolonizing, your own deschooling. When we have all of these events, these field trips that we'll be doing, oh my God, all these wonderful things that are coming up as a result of this book and this movement, I can so see you as the person who's keeping our community involved and aware, doing what you do while you're sharing the other things that you do, because that's how you live.
That's how I get out. Right. I just incorporate it because it's part of life. It's like, I don't need people to, it's nice when people sponsor, do these things. And one person, if somebody's getting something from something, I'm like, I gotta share it.
Yes.
I don't care. Like all the goodness will come later. It's gonna come because it's already coming.
Yes, I was about to say it's already coming, not much later.
Exactly. But it's just like, I gotta share it. I want people to know because it's really helping me. And that's what it is.
Yeah. You know? And that's exactly how I feel. That's what the podcast was, and all of the podcasts really, it's like, here's where I am.
Yes.
And I want to share that. Yes. And I didn't know I was doing everything by myself.
Yes.
And the episodes be sounding crazy in terms of audio standards, but in terms of spiritual standards, them shits was right.
No, they are all right.
And that's how I feel about grief, growth, and goals. That's why I'm like, no, we end when you're ready to end, because what this is emerging into, we're not going to let like podcast formation stop the show about like spiritual transformation.
Absolutely. And I
shared.
love that.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love bringing you all with me on the journey, you know, as we get back out here doing what we do, all full blown. You know? So you guys get to see us in motion. I'll take you on, and I'm telling you, as you know, some really great things are coming up, you know, just for example, I'm just going to share one. For example, like my baby, she, initially, all my children, they were model because I do. And it was my dream. That was the vision that I had. It was all a dream.
Word on magazine. Okay. We need more live stuff.
Right,
oh my gosh.
Right,
okay, focus, Lil. Oh my God, what time is it?
Woosah. So truly, it was all a dream.
Yes.
And I, you know, dreamed a life that I would model. When I had kids, they were going to model too. So that's what had happened. Yeah. That's what I had did. And so they didn't have a choice, but it's what I'm trying to say. The moral of the story, they didn't have a choice.
Yes. Because she talks about that on the podcast as well, because she is an unschooling mother.
Yes.
So we talk about that whole deconstructing, but let's lead into the, the real,
good.
Yes, the story.
So now they, they didn't have a choice, but now my daughter is really into it and she wants to, because we took a sabbatical, and then she was like, I really want to do this. I'm like, you do?
I remember we talked about that.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Because coming back into this now, I was the one putting in all the work.
Yes, we talked
they
about
have
that,
no idea what exactly. They have
and
no
idea really
y'all's
relationship, because you're like, how you didn't audition?
Right.
Yeah, you didn't study your lines.
Right. And being hard on her, she has moments where it's just like, I'm a bit of a bear and I'm healing.
And we're working on that, right? Because that's not cute. This is not the space where we celebrate
exactly
that.
At all.
Nor do we make ourselves feel guilty, because this is the work.
Because I am doing the work and I am healing. And also she is. And so it's just beautiful right now to see her really want to do it, and to see me take my place and allow her and assist her, as opposed to making them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And my 15-year-old, he's not into this. But he wants the money. He wants the shmoney. You know what I'm saying?
So then we have the conversation about the reality.
So he's trying to figure out where he fit in. He's like, no, I don't want to do none of that. Anything where I got to talk, I'm good. Yeah. But if I can stand there and be like, I can do that. Yeah. I don't really want to talk.
Skill level makes it so that, as you've heard on the podcast when you were talking with Logan and Tiffany, like Lou's skill level allows for, which is so interesting, for her to be able to meet her children from a place of like, oh, okay, as your partner, you don't need to front, like even in modeling and acting, even in the industry of fronting, there are elements where you can absolutely be yourself and get in your lane. Yes. Okay. So y'all know why you need to make sure that you are following Grief, Growth, and Goals podcast on Instagram. And I'm going to make sure your YouTube channel link is here as well. Yes. So, tell us about what's happening now as a result of your baby and you being in this space together as you are now.
So now, oh my gosh, just lots of growth. Me seeing.
No, specifically the story you were going to tell.
Just the idea of her, seeing her really go for it. She is hers. And this is what I share with people when I work with them. I'm like, this is your dream.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's your goal. It doesn't matter if it's modeling or if you're trying to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. But the thing is like, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, whether, and it's her thing. It's her thing now. And so I'm just assisting you. I'm gonna show you how to get there, but it's up to you. If you want to, she's like, I really want to I want to have a show. I'm like, you do? Oh, okay.
Yes. And now we can talk.
Right.
From
okay.
This
So
space,
for real, you do? Okay. So what it looks like right now all the time, it doesn't always look like she's trying to get a show though.
And it's up to you to make sure that you're not like,
and I ain't
but
on her.
I thought you.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. I'm not on her. I don't make her feel bad. I just assist her because I understand what it means to give yourself grace. Because I don't know what all things that she's dealing with. So I treat, it's like beautiful, treat them like they're people.
Yes.
And understanding that my son is completely different. This is not his bag, but he just was born into it. Yeah. But truly he's an introvert. He's so shy.
And just that shy. One thing can make such a significant difference in your relationship with them as their partner, as their mother, as their adult, as the legal person, the person who can, like, all of these things are about trust building. And so that's what's so interesting about your road, because it's your own. There's things that you're shedding. There are things that you're growing. Your skill level is in the mix. And I don't want to lose, I don't want you to lose your point. There was a thing where you're like, oh, I'm just going to share this one with y'all. But then you started talking about Hollis.
Okay, yeah. It was mainly that. Okay, just that transition of how
I thought
one of those nuggets that I'm like deschooling from. And that is it. My behavior with them and trying to control them to make them do what it is, because it's money.
Yeah. But it's like, what are their goals? What's their focus?
Exactly. Supporting them and learning what that is. And it's not about just them making money all the time. Yeah. Because, my mentality is like, hey, ultimately, everybody need to make some money, and you're going to have to get out here and grow up, and what you going to do with yourself? Yeah. And not pushing them, but just letting them know what adulthood is really about, what growing up is about. So preparing them that if you're going to do something, just make sure you love it. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like work.
And the thing is, like, these are all Lou's opinions, right? And the way that she's dealing with her kids with it now is that she's trying to make sure that her actions, her beliefs, the same stuff she just shared, doesn't like become dogma that they have to follow because she believes it, but she's still their mom. Yep. So she has to parent from the space of the thing that makes sense for her, but it doesn't take her away from the responsibility of, as you keep saying, treating them like humans, treating them like people. So then you say, okay, even if I feel like she need to be out here rehearsing because this is what she says she want to do, if I talk to her like that, because I'm in such a powerful position as her mother, is that going to actually motivate her, or am I going to end up being that voice that every time she doesn't do something perfectly right, she's going to beat down on herself, and not that we always can get the right answer to that, but to just consider that each time. Doesn't it affect like how you even approach your children?
Absolutely, because of what I'm dealing with. I know as a human being, I'm like, okay, so what are they dealing with? I'm still playing things back in my head that I have to throw away and change the narrative on. So I don't want to give that to them. So what you're saying is so true. And that's the whole part about treating them like human beings. It's like, I don't want everything that I'm trying to break away from to plague them.
Exactly. And no matter how well-intentioned we are, we know there's in all types of relationships, what you intend has also to contend with what the person is saying, the person you're trying to give it to. So if you're not factoring that in, you're harmful. Even with children.
Yeah, even with children.
You're harmful. So these are the sorts of things, once again, because that's the goal here, to make sure that y'all have some clarity, if you didn't before, about what Lou Hollis and Grief, Growth, and Goals is all about. And so you'll see her all over the network as we continue to develop what Lou's voice makes sense like in all of these spaces. We did the podcast thing, we enjoyed it, but we saw that there are elements that need to be more communal, more specific to Lou's things. So we have some great ideas that you'll be seeing throughout this year and then some. But to just make sure you are following. Lou, any last words for us as we gear up to like sign up, make sure we following?
Just come through and follow. I mean, if y'all vibing with me and y'all like what y'all hearing, y'all trying to grow, get free, I'm just trying to share what I'm doing, how I be doing what I be doing. That's all I'm trying to do.
Just like that.
So come through at 3G and the podcast on IG, and yeah.
Peace and love, y'all. So join us again next week for another episode of me loving on one of our hosts. This time it was Lou Hollis of Grief, Growth, and Goals. Thank you, Lou.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Akilah S. Richards.